what if we could free our minds? In 1923, a futurist from Spain named Virgilio Marchi wrote that the futurist city will succeed in generating more elastic and active minds. The will shall be broken up into new stimuli. Desires will multiply with so many irresistible organisms, invading every being with a kind of invigorating and beneficial injection. A new aspect of the city and home will without doubt create a new spirit and a new regime of life among men. Fast forward 100 years to the present day, and we certainly live in a different world than Virgilio lived in 1923, and I'm astounded by the accuracy of his prediction. In our technological world, what we consume every day is certainly like an invigorating injection. Constant streams of information and entertainment, they satisfy our minds. They let our markets run at hyperspeed, and they give us social connection. And Virgilio was right that the spirit of the digital age would be very different than the spirit of the analog world. It's hyper-connected, hyper-transparent, and hyper-productive. The only thing I'm not sure I agree with from Virgilio's prediction is if, in fact, it is all beneficial. I think there are two sides of the coin. On one side, we have what we're doing today, which is a really heavy focus on consumer products. It's not a bad thing. In fact, it's amazing, it's transformational, and it's changing the ways that we behave and we interact. But I'm more interested in the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin focuses a little bit more on non-consumer technologies and breaks the frame about how we've assumed we should interact in society. My wish for design, my wish for the direction of design, is that it is inspired by a deep love for human interaction and a deep love for our planet, and that we can use our design research toolkit to achieve that. What's amazing is that our design research toolkit is expanding. We now use neuroscience to be able to understand how you feel when you're looking at a technology, your attention when you're looking at a technology, and your cognitive load, meaning how hard you have to think to solve a problem. But my wish is that we focus a little bit more on the mechanics of our system and a little bit less on the look and feel and the packaging of the products we make, so that we can collaborate to make technologies that help us steward our planet and help us create a system that is more efficient and helps us save money by doing so. I want you to know that I think we're all cyborgs. This is very important. It is an assumption of this talk. A cyborg is something that has added a component to your body in order to improve your outcomes or to enhance your performance. Over the years, humans have built layers of tools in order to make us more productive. From the wheel to the chair, bicycles, typewriters, those tools are not embedded in our bodies and they do not make us cyborgs, but they do make us more productive. Other tools do make us cyborgs because they're embedded in our bodies, like hearing aids, like prosthetic legs, and even pacemakers. And now we've added layers of digital tools around us as well, computers, tablets, smartphones, that are becoming increasingly embedded in our bodies by either always being in our pockets, on our wrists, or even embedded via microchip. Everyone, take out your phone for a second. And hold it up. I'll wait, it's okay, we got time. Can the cameras go over a bit? This is fantastic. Look at this. Look at me on stage next to all of these cyborgs. When you woke up this morning, did you check your phone? Did you check your phone before you fell asleep last night? Was your phone in your pocket all day? You are not technically a cyborg, but you are very close to a cyborg. And it's not all bad, okay? If I'm in the city, I can find where I am and where I want to go within 10 seconds with zero context using Google Maps. That's amazing. That enhances my performance. If you ask me a question, I can learn 10 new facts in 30 seconds on Google search. That improves my outcomes. I can crowdsource the best restaurant in town, or I can start a social revolution on Facebook. There are really positive ways to be cyborgs, and there are negative ways to be cyborgs too. I recently saw a video about a man named Isaiah. Isaiah was born without a jaw, which means that he can't speak. So he uses his phone to communicate with people. And he even writes songs and produces songs. Being a cyborg strengthens Isaiah. But I also know Nancy. I'm sure many of you know Nancy. Sometimes I'm Nancy. Nancy is on her phone all day. And she frequents sites like Instagram and Facebook, where she is shown ads that are tailored to her interests and her emotional responses to the platform. And those ads are so powerful that sometimes she buys things that she doesn't need. And she's addicted to scrolling and clicking and liking and posting. Sometimes Nancy is weakened by being a cyborg. She's not building meaningful social connection, and sometimes she's spending money that maybe she doesn't have. Enter human-centered design. I am a futurist, and I'm a human-centered designer. Futurism is a discipline where we plan for the future and build products, services, governments, really anything that plans ahead for changing trends in society and disruptions, and hopefully plants the seeds for healthier lifestyles and more sustainable technologies that can withstand things like climate change. On the other side, as a human-centered designer, well, human-centered design at its core just means leading with the user, which means before you go to build something, study the people that you want to serve, and make sure that you're building exactly the right thing that solves their needs. In its more robust definition, human-centered design starts with anthropology, which is the study of people and how we interact in society, and then add on design, which is the art of planning and creation and engineering and business modeling. And what you get is this perfect storm of people working across the disciplines, all in an effort to make things better for people. And human-centered design is in its heyday, which is wonderful because it is forcing people to ask questions like, what do people want, and how do people feel, and what helps a person, and what hinders a person? And in human-centered design, we have all sorts of tools to help us answer those questions, like ethnography and interviews, co-designing products with users, and also testing those products on users until we kind of work out the gremlins and the kinks. When we are asking people about their lives in an effort to make things better for them, what those people are doing is they're tapping into their conscious thoughts. Conscious thoughts are things you're aware of, like, I'm hot right now, and I'm on stage, and I'm nervous. But conscious thoughts are actually only 10% of your brain. The other 90% of your thoughts are subconscious. Those are things that are really hard to be aware of, like your anxiety levels, your stress levels, and how hard you're thinking at any given time. And it's really hard to self-report on those things if I ask you a question, because it's really hard to be consciously aware of exactly what your anxiety level is, or exactly how hard you're thinking. Well, neuroscience is helping us get a really good look into those subconscious pieces of human experiences and map them to technologies so we can improve those technologies in a much more nuanced way than we ever could before, doing three things. Using eye trackers, we can see exactly where a user is looking at a technology. Using monitors of your heart rate, as well as facial readers, as well as measuring your brain waves, we're able to measure your emotions, so what you're feeling and how hard you're feeling it. And using all of those same technologies, in addition to measuring your pupils and how much they're dilating, We can measure how hard you're thinking. All in an effort to uncover that 90% of subconscious thought, your brain's deep ocean. We had a lot of things before neuroscience to help us understand it, like ethnography and observation, but it's only now that we have science that helps us track it directly to specific pieces of technology, and it's fascinating. It's like we're space explorers and we're on this expedition to see what's there, but just out of sight. But back to the real world and your phones. I want to go back to that question about the two sides of the coin and whether we continue to develop our technologies and our science in service of consumer products, or if we redirect and focus more on non-consumer products and developing systems that are more efficient. I'm going to give you some examples on both sides. Right now, some of the ways that we're using design research and neuroscience, like what Facebook is doing to make the platform more attention-grabbing and addictive, makes apps function like a slot machine, so that every time you pull down and you scroll and you're waiting for that like, your pleasure center is going off. And if you do that too repeatedly, like with any addiction, your pleasure center shrinks. So you do it more, and you do it more, and you do it more, and your pleasure center shrinks. And we can keep doing this. We can keep designing products that tap into users' emotional, subconscious thoughts in order to push products, but it's really a dangerous game to play. Because what's happening there is that you're removing a certain amount of agency and influencing users ever so subtly in the decisions that they make. But I want you to know, it's not just companies' fault, it's our fault, it's consumers' fault. And why is that? Well, we live in the freemium economy, which means that we've signed contracts, terms and conditions, so that you don't have to pay for products. In exchange for not paying, what you have agreed to is you've agreed to listening and information sharing, which means that when you're on your platforms and your apps, more often than not, they have access to your microphone and your camera at almost all times. They're listening without you knowing. My roommate recently told me a story about her talking about running shoes all day. And then when she went on her Facebook page, she saw all of these ads about running shoes. And she said it was really creepy, but she didn't want to delete Facebook, but she did want to turn the listening off. I've experienced that before too. So the question is, how do we redirect? Where do we go? Well, there are a lot of ways that we can use our technology and move our science in different ways. We just have to free ourselves from the anchor we've created. Let me give you some examples. Think about people who work in finance, insurance, and municipal management. There's a lot of people who look at dashboards all day called controllers, and they're combing through that information in order to make the systems run. Well, we can use our science in order to simplify those screens and make it so she can accomplish, the controller, because she's a girl, she can accomplish tasks with the fewest amount of clicks and in the least amount of time. That helps us make money by making us more efficient, right? There are so many places we can go, and we've anchored to this super boring screen-based view of the world, and I really hope we remove ourselves from it. Imagine if, instead of selling you ads, your phone told you to turn it off and drink some water and go to yoga. Or if we used our technologies to build completely non-screen tech. There's a lot of it coming out now. We just have to invest in it. For example, there is a fabric that uses your body heat to power your own devices. Imagine if we tested that on users to perfection and we went totally off-grid. The paths we set now and the choices we make on how we integrate with technology, because we have made a choice. We have said yes to cyborgism. We have said yes to integrating with technology. But the choices that we make, they define what futures we set. They define what jobs we have in the future. They define what legacies we leave behind. And they define what futures we leave for our children. And my hope is that if we embrace being cyborgs, let's embrace being better cyborgs. Let's embrace being cyborgs that are committed to loving each other and supporting each other, being supportive, removing obstacles so that we can spend more meaningful time in our physical environments. So what I'd like you to do, take out your phone again. You're not gonna like me. Now, take out your phone and hold down that power button and turn it off. I'll wait. And put it back in your pocket. And I challenge you to keep that off until you go to bed tonight. If you have to turn it on to put on your alarm clock, I understand. But other than that, keep it off. And notice how good it feels from now, when you go to the reception, when you're driving home in your car, how good it feels to just be instigating some really meaningful connections with someone that's important to you. But also notice your addiction. You're gonna wanna reach in and turn it back on and check in on that digital bubble, and that's okay, but that is a sign of our collective societal addiction to the products we've made. So, it's really important to leave with a few ideas. First, I want us to be expected to act ethically in the design world, which means I want all of the citizens of our country to demand good design so that us designers can supply good design, because we really want to supply good design. The other thing is that it's super important for us to remember that the bravest thing we can do is to try and fail, and try and fail, and try and fail, and try again. And as we fail, be looking at how our failures affect the people that we wanted to serve, and learning from that. That's truly how we make things better for people over time. I want you to embrace this awesome toolkit that we have of design research and neuroscience, this very interesting science of uncovering human needs, to guide us to the most impactful and meaningful projects so we can improve our world together. Free your mind. Thank you.